Your chest feels full tonight, not heavy, just charged, like something has been building for days without a name. You told yourself it was the heat, the pace of the week. Your nervous system finally catching up to everything you have been carrying. But here is what is actually happening. Right now, at this exact moment, the moon is conjunct Sirius, the brightest star in our sky, positioned deep in the waters of the fourth house of the zodiac. This alignment peaks tonight, and it carries a frequency that thousands of people are registering in their bodies without understanding why. Sirius has been called the spiritual sun behind our sun by ancient astronomers for a reason. And there is one dimension of this conjunction that almost no one is addressing, and it may be the most important thing you hear all month. Stay with me until the end of this video. What I will reveal in the final minutes is not the kind of information that floats around in mainstream astrology content. It concerns a specific mechanic, a binary choice unfolding between June 18 and June 20. And by the end of this, you will know exactly which side you land on and why. Don't skip ahead. The context we build together in the next 18 minutes is what makes that final revelation land with full force. 3 kinds of people are watching this right now. The first is someone who has been feeling emotionally raw for days, more permeable than usual, as though the membrane between their inner world and everyone else's has grown thin. You absorb moods in rooms you haven't even entered yet. The second is someone who has been dreaming with unusual intensity, images that linger past noon, feelings that don't belong to yesterday, a sense that sleep is delivering something urgent that waking life hasn't named. And the third is someone who has been pulled towards solitude without being able to explain it, not depression, not withdrawal, but a deep gravitational pull inward, as though something is gathering. Whoever you are, whatever you are carrying into this moment, this conjunction has a message specifically calibrated to reach you. Here is what is actually moving in the sky tonight. The moon, which governs your subconscious patterns, your emotional tides, your instinctual body, is conjunct Sirius, the brightest fixed star visible from Earth, positioned in the heart of the cardinal water sign. Sirius sits at approximately 14 degrees in the tropical zodiac, and when the moon crosses this point, it acts as an amplifying lens. The moon moves quickly. It transits a full sign in roughly 2.5 days, which means this window is narrow, precise, and already fully open. The water sign is the moon's own domain, its domicile, the place where lunar energy operates without friction or compromise. The moon here is not restrained. It is at home, and it is hosting one of the sky's most electrically charged fixed stars. Sirius carries a frequency that ancient Egyptian astronomers tracked for millennia. They oriented the Nile calendar by its heliacal rising, the moment it reappears on the horizon after weeks of invisibility. They were not doing this casually. They understood that Sirius marked a portal. The star's brightness exceeds every other fixed star by a magnitude that renders it unmistakable, even in light-polluted skies. When the ancients spoke of stellar intelligence, they were describing the way certain stars seem to pulse with consciousness, to broadcast information across the void between their position and our receptivity. Tonight, you are standing inside that same portal, and your body, not your mind, your body, already knows it. The conjunction activates what astrologers call the lunar nodes, the points where the moon's orbit intersects the ecliptic, creating the mathematical foundation for eclipse cycles. When Sirius aligns with the moon in this particular sign, it creates what traditional texts describe as a stellar gateway. The energy does not arrive gradually. It floods. The emotional body, governed by lunar cycles, suddenly has access to frequencies that normally remain beyond conscious reach. This is why your dreams have been more vivid. This is why conversations feel layered with meaning you cannot quite articulate. This is why the ordinary world has been feeling slightly translucent, as though something more substantial is moving behind it. Stop. Feel that pulse? That is the transit activating in you. Some of you are feeling this as expansion, a current of excitement, a sense that something long delayed is finally in motion, a creative urgency that makes it difficult to sit still. Your thoughts arrive faster than usual. Connections between ideas that seemed unrelated suddenly illuminate each other. The body feels electric, alive, as though every cell is receiving a transmission. You want to create, to communicate, to begin the projects that have been waiting in the margins of your awareness. That is one face of this conjunction. Others are feeling it as agitation, a restlessness with no clear object, a low hum of anxiety beneath the surface of an otherwise ordinary evening. Sleep feels just out of reach. The body cannot settle. There is a pressure behind the eyes or at the crown of the head, a tingling that has been coming and going for days. The nervous system registers the influx of stellar energy as overstimulation rather than inspiration. Both experiences are valid. Both confirm that you are registering the energy of this alignment in real time. The difference is not about sensitivity, it is about direction. Energy without a container disperses into emotional weather. Energy with a clear channel becomes revelation. We will address that before this video ends. Cast your mind back 5 or 6 weeks. There was a period, you will recognize it, when momentum seemed to stall. Plans that had been gathering speed hit an invisible resistance. Conversations that should have been easy turned complicated. Projects that felt aligned suddenly required twice the effort for half the result. You may have questioned timing, questioned yourself, wondered whether the effort you had been putting in was actually landing anywhere. That period was not punishment, it was compression. Think of it as a bow being drawn back. The tension was the preparation, not the obstacle. The stillness before this conjunction was the container filling. What you experienced as stagnation was actually the psychic and emotional material you needed, accumulating below the surface, building pressure, waiting for exactly this night to have somewhere to go. The lunar cycle that preceded this conjunction carried a specific signature of restriction and delay, not because the universe was withholding, but because the conditions were not yet precise enough to support what was trying to emerge. The moon had to complete its journey through the signs that prepare the ground, the analytical earth energy, the diplomatic air energy, the transformative water energy, before arriving at this cardinal water placement where it could host Sirius without interference. What felt like cosmic resistance was actually cosmic precision. The timing had to be exact, and here is where the energy shifts. If right now you feel like you are carrying emotions that do not belong to you, if the moods of others seem to stick to your energy field long after you have left their presence, if you find yourself crying or laughing without clear cause, this is the conjunction working through your system. You are not losing your emotional stability. You are temporarily operating with heightened sensitivity, and the challenge is learning to navigate that sensitivity without drowning in it. This Moon-Sirius conjunction lands inside the 8-month lunar nodal cycle. We are at a critical arc between the new moon that seeded this emotional intention and the full moon in the opposite sign that will close it. That full moon arrives in January 2026. Mark this date. What emotional foundations are you building now that will bear weight by then? The conjunction activates what traditional astrology calls the 4th house of the natural zodiac, the realm of roots, family patterns, emotional security, and the deepest psychological foundations. When Sirius floods this house with stellar fire, it illuminates not just what you have built, but what you have inherited. Ancestral patterns that have been running in the background of your emotional responses suddenly become visible. The way your family processed grief, celebrated joy, handled conflict, these templates are not just memories tonight. They are active frequencies, and you have the opportunity to consciously choose which ones you carry forward and which ones you release. Someone interprets a moment of emotional intensity with a friend as a sign that they should relocate across the country to be closer, without considering whether the friend shares that interpretation. The energy of this conjunction does not distinguish between bold action and blind action. That is your responsibility. The stellar fire of Sirius amplifies whatever it touches. If it touches clarity, you get revelation. If it touches confusion, you get amplified confusion that feels like revelation. If it touches unprocessed grief, you get a flood of sorrow that can feel like spiritual awakening, but is actually emotional overwhelm. If it touches unexamined anger, you get righteous fury that feels like divine justice, but may actually be projection. The conjunction is neutral. It amplifies. What it amplifies depends entirely on the state of your emotional and psychic hygiene in the days leading up to tonight. Before any major move in the next 72 hours, ask yourself 3 questions. First, is this decision mine, or am I carrying someone else's emotional field and calling it revelation? The heightened empathy of this transit can make it difficult to distinguish between your authentic impulses and the unprocessed emotions you have absorbed from others. Second, if this energy were half as intense tomorrow, would this decision still be obvious? Stellar conjunctions create a kind of cosmic intoxication. What feels inevitable under the influence may feel questionable in sobriety. Third, what am I moving toward, and what am I moving away from, and am I sure I know which one is driving me? These questions are not obstacles to intuition. They are the refinement that makes intuition trustworthy. The conjunction also activates what depth psychologists call the shadow of the nurturing archetype. The same energy that can provide profound emotional healing and psychic nourishment can also manifest as emotional manipulation, guilt-based control, and the weaponization of vulnerability. If you find yourself using your emotional sensitivity as a way to control outcomes, crying to end arguments, sharing trauma to gain sympathy, withdrawing affection to punish, the conjunction is showing you where your emotional power has become corrupted. This is not judgment, this is information. The stellar fire burns away what is false, but only if you are willing to see what is being revealed. So far, we have explored the technical mechanics of this stellar conjunction and the 3 distinct ways it manifests in your direct experience. You can already feel it when your emotional boundaries become more permeable, or when sleep delivers information that waking consciousness hasn't named. But there is something we haven't addressed yet. How do you actually channel this amplified stellar energy so that it builds lasting transformation rather than scattering into temporary excitement? First, identify one thing, that this energy wants to move. Not 3 things, not the list. 1. The stellar frequency active tonight is precise, not diffuse. If you give it a single, clear channel, it flows with extraordinary force. If you spread it across multiple intentions, it disperses into emotional weather with no direction. Sit with the question tonight. What is the one area of my life where I have felt the most accumulation, the most pressure, the most readiness? Name it, write it down. That is your channel. The practice of focus during stellar conjunctions is not about limitation. It is about amplification through concentration. Think of sunlight passing through a magnifying glass. Diffused sunlight warms, focused sunlight ignites. The same principle applies to stellar energy. When you scatter your attention across multiple desires, you get a gentle warming of possibility. When you focus your attention on a single intention, you get ignition. The conjunction wants to burn through obstacles, not gently warm them. Second, prepare the container before the energy peaks. This means practical things, not mystical ones. Clear the space where you intend to reflect. Have a journal within reach before sleep. Set the intention before the mind begins its nightly noise. Turn off the devices that fragment attention. Create physical boundaries that support psychic boundaries. The ritual of a lunar altar with white candles and clear quartz is not decoration, it is architecture. It creates a physical boundary that tells your nervous system, this space is for reception, not for problem solving. The distinction matters more than you may realize. The nervous system operates on pattern recognition. When you create a consistent physical environment for receiving intuitive information, the body learns to shift into receptive mode more quickly and more completely. The candles signal that ordinary time has been suspended. The crystals provide a focal point for scattered attention. The journal creates a bridge between the non-verbal downloads and verbal integration. These are not superstitions. They are technologies for optimizing the conditions under which insight arrives. Third, expect resistance in the 48 hours that follow the peak. This is not failure, it is physics. Every opening generates a corresponding contraction. The day after a significant psychic or emotional download, the ordinary mind attempts to reassert its dominance by minimizing what was received. Do not let it. The practice of writing down what surfaced, dreams, intuitions, synchronicities, is your evidence against the revisionism of the rational mind. What felt true at 2 in the morning is still true at 2 in the afternoon. The notes protect the signal. The resistance typically manifests as doubt, dismissal, or distraction. You wake up the morning after the conjunction, and the revelations that felt so clear in the darkness now seem like emotional exaggeration or wishful thinking. This is the ego reasserting control over territory it temporarily lost to the unconscious. Do not argue with the doubt. Document what you received and let time reveal its accuracy. The stellar downloads often take weeks or months to fully unfold their meaning. And finally, hold what arrives with humility rather than announcement. The default mode network, the neural circuit that activates during rumination and self-referential thinking, quiets during deep meditative states and during periods of significant planetary activation. The brain is literally reorganizing to integrate what is arriving. Do not fight the pull towards silence during this window. That is not withdrawal, that is the neural wiring doing its work. What you receive tonight is not yet ready to be broadcast. Receive it first. Let it settle. Let the integration happen before the explanation. The gift arrives before the meaning. Trust the sequence. The stellar conjunction creates what neuroscientists call a hypnagogic state, the threshold between waking and sleeping, where the logical mind relaxes its grip and the intuitive mind becomes more active. This is why the most profound downloads often arrive just before sleep or just after waking. The brain waves shift into theta frequency, the same frequency associated with deep meditation and creative breakthrough. Honor this natural rhythm. Do not force insight through effort. Create the conditions and let the insight arrive on its own timeline. And here is where the energy shifts toward what is already in motion beyond tonight. Between June 18 and June 20, a specific configuration arrives that directly extends what this conjunction has opened. The planetary alignment during those dates creates what traditional astrology calls a grand trine, a harmonious aspect pattern that allows energy to flow between 3 points in the sky without friction or resistance. But here is what makes this particular grand trine extraordinary. One of those points is the degree where tonight's conjunction peaks. The stellar fire that Sirius ignites in your emotional depths tonight becomes the fuel for a much larger cosmic engine that activates in 10 days. 2 outcomes become available during that window, and they are not gradations of the same result. You earn recognition, authority, and lasting wealth. Or you overreach, burn bridges, and lose hard ones standing. It's binary. There is no middle position that carries through. What determines which side you land on is whether you lead with integrity or arrogance. Not talent, not effort, not even timing, though timing matters. The interior posture you bring to what opens between those dates is the deciding variable.